these around the development of a digital economy, then I think it will stifle innovation and it will impact our ability to leapfrog. Because if we build walls where walls don't exist in a digital world, then just as we may not want certain things to get out, other things.
Okay. So I want to talk about the danger of having growth that is not inclusive. And I think that is very, very possible. It's entirely possible that we will have an India that is much more advanced than it already is in terms of a digital economy, but that growth is not going to be inclusive. In fact, if you look at the advanced economies, it's not a given that the growth over there has been inclusive. For it to really be inclusive, there are a couple of things that we'll need to watch out for. One is, how can we get technology in the hands of all? How can we get technology to the next billion? And that is going to require...
So the crucial step is whether we take the next step of really taking this digital economy into the knowledge economy. That aggregation of all this data and the conversion of information points into intuitive knowledge points, and those knowledge points taking again the implementation cycle into impacting human lives. That cycle is crucial because then it is digitization and IT not for the sake of IT but for the sake of impacting human lives. And that is really the measure point. And it comes back to, quality of life. Have we achieved literacy because we were able to use e-learning? We put learning onto the mobile phone. We understood how they learned, so we improved learning mechanisms. So I think the crucial jump in the next 10 years is pervasive into everyone's hand and conversion of digital and information age into knowledge age and intuitive action age. So that, in my mind, is the next 10 years challenge or scenario, and it can be marked in a number of ways. The simple one is, if you go onto the government website and the website is down, then that's a simple one, you can figure that. Or if you look at the health ministry where we currently have 47 websites belonging, I think would be the biggest sign that we failed. If we fail to be human beings, even though we have smart cities, smart world, smart food, smart health, smart everything, and we've lost what's within. So that's the one I would look out for the most.
Good. Thank you. I pick about 10, 12 different themes. I'll summarize and then open it up for Q&A. First is the impact in the area of education. Second point made is the fine right to information, right to question. That's a big one in a digital world. Digital world is a horizontal layer as opposed to a vertical layer which divides. Kumud said we haven't seen anything as yet in the digital world. The whole concept of smart cities and developing entrepreneurs who make money or contribute via IP. No one goes hungry in a country where the back end is very well digitized and hence there's very little wastage. Okay, how does digitization impact daily life? Then we talked about no walls. If India were to succeed, India is a net gainer in a boundaryless world. How do we get technology for all? And finally, Sangeeta's point, information leading to intuition, leading to insight, which finally must impact all of us. But most important, while digitization is the order of the day, how do we ensure that we keep our humaneness and are able to relate to each other as people? So those are the big points which these wonderful panelists made. And I just took a sneak look at the score. We are already at 90% in terms of what you people said, that India can digitize and digitization can impact a reinvention of India. So all three of you scored 90% on that. That's fantastic. So now I leave it open to lots of questions. So I don't know.
Okay. And like all great questions, it's pretty difficult. But I think that there is no overarching answer. to that one, but there are small pieces of success or small initiatives which lead up to this larger environment. So one is the national data on Ayurvedic and alternate medicine. And that is something which Ayush has done, and we are actually trying to work on how we integrate that. The other is a small research project we're working on. So there's a team which, before you have a knee replacement, we're actually doing a CT scan and MRI, and then letting the alternate medicine do the massage, the oil, etc. And then seeing whether doing a CT scan, Rose-Waller test, MRI, post it. So actually what we need to do is put the allopathic diagnostic capability and the allopathic research and data documentation into a lot of tremendous science of alternate medicine. It's not our primary or our core, but we're open to it, we believe in it, and in a holistic future world, it is something which will evolve.
Thank you. Balasubramanian from Coimbatore. First of all, let me say that the questions I'm going to ask, there are 3 questions and small questions. Any of the panelists can answer that question. I'm in the field of management education. And I must also admit that I'm a very, very incorrigible, firm believer in technology. Okay? My questions are like this. One, there's a sort of a feeling among the educators that in recent times, the students or the younger generation seem to be suffering from lack of communication skills. This is what the industry people say. And that is being attributed to the increased use of technology. Your SMS language, your MMS language, whatever language you use, WhatsApp language, all that has ruined the Queen's English. This is one complaint that they have. The other is because of this use of technology, you find that the students seem to have a very, very short attention span. And that has come down. And therefore, it is becoming increasingly difficult for educators to, quote unquote, teach the students of today. Second. Third, which I think is very, very important, is, as all of us would agree, knowledge is something which is available at the click of a mouse or press of a button on any mobile device. Should move away from this conventional concept of imparting knowledge to something else. Maybe the doing and the being part, more to do with what Sangeeta was referring to as the human being, humanity, etc. So these are my comments. You have any response for that?
I think I can answer all of your observations or questions, but a couple of things. One, your point on communications. Right? I think if we go back to the last couple of decades, and in some ways, I think the success of the IT industry and with leading to a lot more people going into engineering and computer science and those sorts of have left the arts and some of these other areas behind. Now, I think if we move forward with the further use of digital enablement, where part of it I don't think is necessary, it's the education we're making available. There is nothing that says I can't go to school and major in math and English, if math and English is what I want to do. But today children make choices which say you have to do science or you have to do liberal arts or you have to. Whereas communications, I think, is foundational to any discipline. There are very few fields where you don't have to be an effective communicator. So my hypothesis or hope would be that as we digitize more and as we make e-learning a more sustainable model for many schools, schools may have their core area of expertise that they actually have professors and teachers to deliver, but they can take advantage of digital learning to provide things like communications, English, literature, other history, subjects that students should probably have as part of their overall curriculum to make them more effective in whatever their life choices might be. So that's just a comment on communication. You had a point, and I'm trying to get back to your last point. Attention span, again, that's something you train. I think that's something you train. It is, I know as many 50-year-olds who have, low attention span as, 15-year-olds or 5-year-olds. So I don't know that that's a function of technology. I think it's a function of, an instant world where there's instant gratification of everything. So again, if you apply technology, you can find a way to, to get that done. But your comment, I think, on today, we can not only go to the internet and get answers for everything, but it's not just about information, but you actually get learning in terms of, hey, let's take a cooking example. It's not just about a recipe, but you can have 10 other people tell you that recipe works, that recipe doesn't. So it's actually knowledge in a very usable manner. So back to, again, education.
He's been standing up. Yes, please go ahead.
My compliments to the panel. Let's talk about India. I would like to understand from the panel in terms of what kind of recipe do you recommend which can contribute to the strengthening of India's culture as well as creating better citizenship.
Yeah, so, I'll tell you, technology, somebody earlier referred to technology as a Western phenomenon. I don't think technology is a Western phenomenon. I think technology is something that we use our intellectual capabilities to produce. It is how we harness that technology and how we apply it. That's where we take our culture into account. That is where we take our own country's needs into account. And that is where we actually use technology to make India a better country. So it all lies in the area of what we do with the technology that is becoming available to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ending to another level, which is experiential learning. And you're learning it rather than one guru or your personal experience or your family, you're learning it from the world. And that evolution, we're on that cusp, and in effect, actually, the information technology will enable information to become knowledge. And the way we handle that transition is the huge one. I want to do for 1 second the beautiful question on children's low attention span. I just dropped my son in Philadelphia yesterday and landed this morning. And I told him the same thing, you all don't communicate, talk to your professor respectfully, make sure you study a few hours every day. And he said, Mom, I'm already on WhatsApp, I've already spoken to everybody I need to, they already know my room number, my new telephone number, so they're communicating faster and better than us. It's just a new way. So we need to figure it out. And the next one, in terms of attention span, if you've watched kids play video games till 3 in the morning, their attention didn't waver for a minute. Social gamification will get into education, and we will teach differently to capture those minds and that attention span. So in this amazing world where the customer is always right, and where the customer today, 56% of the world is under the, the age of India is under the age of 30, we need to figure this one out quickly. Their economic power, their purchasing power is increasing. We need to change and evolve this new model.
If you define success as higher GDP, more consumerism, getting a better position in life, maybe IT is the answer, one of the answers. But if you define success as a sense of well-being, wisdom, sense of wonder, and compassion and giving, I don't think IT has at all helped. And your definition of communication with hundreds through this gadget, to me, is not human communication. You are.
I'm going to respectfully challenge you. So I went to the US in 1981, and the distance couldn't have been greater. Right? Today, my mother talks to her daughter in the US every day on Facebook and tells her what recipes to cook, helps her with. So it's not about technology. And for my mother, we talked about the gender gap. For her adoption of technology, her killer application is it brings her granddaughter into her room every day. Right? So there is nothing else that would have got her to adopt her iPad and learn how to use it, but she faithfully waits to see the Skype light turns on or what it is, because it is, at the end of the day, it's about fostering that connection. It is a very, very human killer application, but that's enabled by technology. So I don't think any of us, certainly I wouldn't, ever say technology is the end. Technology is a means to an end, and technology is what we make of it and with it. It can be put to the best of purposes, and it can be put to the worst of purposes. And there comes judgment and hopefully, good sense.
My name is Atanu Ghosh. I am learning while teaching at the School of Management, IIT Bombay. So ever learning. I'd like to take, first I'd like to appreciate all the points which you have brought forward, both in terms of success and impact of IT. But I'd like to just bring different perspective, and probably taking from what Mr. Chidambaram was talking about in the earlier session. And he talked about two issues. One is, the consumption rate in this country is very low. And second is the question which came is the demographic dividend, whether it's a liability or it's really asset. I think the IT can answer to both this. And how, to me, is when I see this education is reaching to all nook and corners of the country, to everyone, and then taking forward the skill development, which we are talking about now, from school education or education to skill development, which gives them the purchasing power, so the consumption level can go up. So consumption can't go up unless they have the purchasing capability. And same way, if we give this education, if we give them the purchase power, this dividend we are talking about, the demographic will give the dividend and not be the liability. And third comment which I wanted to make in terms of, whether you are by clicking getting information or knowledge, partly I think what Sangeeta was trying to respond to that, watching, observing a discussion also can give knowledge. But nothing like what Professor Balasubramanian was saying, that by doing, being part of the discussion, the knowledge